Alright, in this video we're going to talk about how we can organize this clutter and entourage and vegetation so that it only shows up when and where we want it to within the design. If we go back into Revit and expand the view, and we'll actually pause Enscape for right now. One of the challenges was placing this kind of content in Revit is that it shows up everywhere. We don't want this showing up in certain views, like our level 1 construction document view, for example. We can see these people are showing up. They're part of the entourage category. And then if our planting category happened to be turned on because somebody was positioning the content like I was in the previous video, all of this could potentially show up in sections, elevations, plans. So one way to manage this in a very effective way is to use design options. So down at the bottom on the status bar, there's the design options command. You can see there's one design option in here already. So there's a name for a design option set, and then there's individual options, and you can have as many individual options within an option set as you want. And there's always a primary option. This is the option that shows up by default in every view, and then the secondary options have to be specifically set to show up. So that's what we're going to leverage. The primary option for the option set we're about to create. So we're going to click New for option set. And before we do anything, we're going to rename this to we'll call this rendering elements. And then the primary option, this is the default option that shows up everywhere, is actually going to be empty, so nothing shows up anywhere by default. We'll actually rename that and call it empty. And then we're going to create a secondary option. So we click New, and it creates what we call a secondary option. Primary is empty. Secondary, we're going to rename. So we'll literally call this secondary option Make Visible in Rendering Views. This will help other people working on the project know what this is. And when they see it's about rendering, they can know just to ignore it if it has nothing to do with them. So now we'll close this dialog. And then if we select all of the entourage that's in this particular view, we don't want to select the chair that the person's sitting in. That may be part of the FF&E documents. But all of this other content that we placed from the Enscape asset library or the Revit RPC content or any other family that we placed that's just purely clutter, we select it, and then now that we have design options in the project, this command add to set is available when things are selected. So I click that button. I want to make sure I select the correct design option set. And if I were to click OK now with both of these checked, everything that's selected would be copied into both of these design options. But we want to make sure we leave empty, and just move. So we're moving, not just copying. We're moving this information into this design option. We click OK, and now everything disappeared because the primary design option, which is what shows up by default, is empty. If we were to go to Visibility Graphic Overrides for this view, whenever design options exist, you have a design options tab. This tab only shows up when there are design options in the project. So rendering elements, automatic means show the primary design option, which is the empty one. And then if we were to force this view to show the secondary options for that design option set, then everything shows up. It's helpful to point out right now that things in design options, whether they're primary or secondary, cannot actually be selected. You can uncheck this exclude options to temporarily select something, but when you switch views or do certain commands, this thing will check itself again. So you want to keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead and set this back because this is the construction documents floor plan. We're going to set that back to automatic. And one of the fundamental things I want to convey here is the idea of doing all of this presentation development in the main model. Don't ever make a copy of the Revit model. Using this design option, we can do this safely within a project that's being worked on by 20 people and it's halfway through CDs. Now if we go to one of our Enscape views, Enscape main entry, we'll type VV and set the secondary design option for rendering elements to show the entourage. So now in this view, when we start Enscape, so I'm going to resume Enscape. And you'll notice this particular 3D view, Enscape export view, still doesn't have the secondary option turned on in it. So this one doesn't show that content. So I'm going to close Enscape. And from this particular view, the Enscape main entry, because it has the secondary option turned on, this entourage content will show up. And there we have it. Somehow our computer got raised, so we're going to fix that real quick. And because we can't select it here, I need to uncheck this exclude options so that I can now pick it. It's set to level 1. And now I just edit it to be 30 inches. So all of this content will only show up in views that it's been explicitly told to, and none of this content will ever accidentally show up in a wall section, a building section, a floor plan. It's even excluded from schedules. Schedules can include secondary design option information, but just like a regular view, it needs to be told to do it. It won't just do it automatically.